Welcome back at WNST. Harry Trott's homecoming, all of this good stuff, and some homecoming for some old friends of mine. I remember running around chasing the Titans in Trotsy 2 decades ago down in Nashville. This guy's still doing it down there, Midday 180. You can find him out at Paul Kuharsky, NFL, out on Twitter as well, and also a Springsteen guy. So I hope that Nashville is my lucky town on Saturday night and into Sunday this weekend. Paul Kuharsky joins us, and, both of these teams are feeling good about themselves a week ago. I mean, one crappy game in Buffalo and one long weekend in Cleveland, and you sort of come back down to earth at 3-2. A lot at stake here this week as the Titans fly off to London next week to play the Chargers, Paul.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, the Titans don't have a great next month because after this one, like you said, trip to London to play the Chargers, a team it's one of those teams that just has their number consistently. Then a Monday night in Dallas that shouldn't be too bad. Then the Patriots here in Nashville. So they're going to be kicking themselves about that Buffalo game, and they're going to need to find one to kind of make up for it somewhere along the road.
Mariota, where are you with him and Vrabel and the changes? I'm a Vrabel guy, and I knew him as a player and an Ed Block winner, and he's exactly the kind of guy. When that hire happened, I'm like, that's kind of a brilliant hire. That's a guy on the come, and that's a guy who's going to win there if they can get the other parts right. And part of the parts right, Nick Williams dropping balls that win games. We had Crabtree do that here this weekend, but he's gone, and Delaney Walker hurt, and Richard Matthews out. I've been a lot of changes here. This isn't the team maybe that you thought it was in the summertime. Certainly, maybe in June when you're doing mandatories, right?
Yeah, he went through about as much change. I mean, look, most coaches taking over a new team take over a team that stunk. Yeah, so he took over a 9-7 playoff team, but he certainly was tested with all of these injuries, with a 7-hour game on opening day, with the 2 huge lightning delays in Miami. And I think he's handled it all very well. As just talking about, Monday press conference isn't filled with defensive-ness and spin after a bad loss, which is very unusual. I think he's been great. There's a lot of evidence still to come in, but through 5 games, got to like the way he conducts himself. The players love him. Really seems to be common sense and smart. Mariota is just so up and down. I mean, you look at what he did against the Eagles, and he was great. He threw one bad interception, but was throwing deep, was on the move, looked like a guy that's it. And then he goes to to Buffalo, and doesn't really do anything. So I'm of the opinion he has the skill set and the mindset to be a winning NFL quarterback. I'm also of the opinion he needs to start showing that on a weekly basis, and it can't be on again, off again. They need him to be better than he was in Buffalo. And, this is another tough defense against Baltimore, and he needs to find a way to make plays despite what's going on around him.
Yeah, it's fascinating for all the quarterbacks because if Brady's come back to earth a bit and Rodgers and Roethlisberger and some of these guys and the Mahomes and the Goffs are coming on, the Mariotas, the Flaccos, there's so many of those guys in the league that you feel like in any given week you can win. And on a week where Mariota hit the kid, in the hands with the winning pass, Flacco hit Crabtree in the hands with the winning pass, but it's the quarterback that takes all the flack after the game, has to come out and talk about losing and why you lose. It is a strange business in every game. Certainly the Titans, they've all been 3-point games, not even 6-point games, 7-point games. They've all really been about one play, one block kick, one missed field goal, one whatever. That's the league, and I think on a week-to-week basis, we want parity in this league. Certainly in our division, we're all 4 of these teams for the first time ever now that the Browns have sort of gotten up off to their knees and can walk a little bit. It feels very, very even, and I think your division feels that way too. Clearly the Colts are maybe a cut below, but not on any given week when Andrew Luck has the ball in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and the Titans are in good shape in the division. I mean, they're 2-0. It's a while before they have another division game. They won the toughest division game of the season in Jacksonville on the road, and they kind of have Jacksonville's number. It's a game like Buffalo that messes them up where, like last year, they lost the division to Jacksonville by a game because they went out and booted in Arizona and San Francisco on back-to-back West Coast trips where, one win would have taken care of business. So I feel like, they're better than 2 of the 3 teams in the division, and they happen to have the number of the best team in the division. But a game like the Buffalo game, could wind up being the difference as they're trying to slug it out potentially for playoff positioning. And your division is going to make it tougher. I think a lot of us looked around the AFC and had trouble coming up with 2 wild cards before the season. And Baltimore, Cincinnati, and even Cleveland all look like potential playoff teams, and you can never count out Pittsburgh. So,
well, nobody's coming from the East. We at least know that part, right? Like it's it's New England and everybody else, and it sort of opens things up. The West kind of stinks at the bottom with Oakland right now. I don't think Denver's a playoff team, but Paul Kuharsky joining the series. Paul Kuharsky, NFL. You can follow him out there on the 180, doing some radio as well out in the Nashville area, and has been covering the Titans from the very beginning. The Delaney Walker thing. When you lose a guy like that, and the injuries that have been a part of this, and Lawan before, prior to that, you lose key guys. We had that with Yonta here last year. C.J. Mosley went down a couple weeks ago. We played last year with that Brandon Williams who can't stop a run. When you lose these $10, $12, $14 million football players or guys that have been around a long time, the Delaney Walker thing, he goes out and they don't have a tight end that can catch a pass, right?
Yeah, they've done pretty well on the offensive line. Conklin missed the first 3 coming back from ACL. Lawan was out 1 with a concussion, fell out of this game, could be in jeopardy this week with the foot. They've done pretty well there with their depth. But Jonnu Smith was drafted in 3rd round 2 years ago to be eventually the next Delaney Walker, and now he's been targeted 6 times since Walker went down. He's got 1 9-yard catch, a bad drop. He was wide open on the play where Nick Williams dropped the touchdown, and I'm not convinced that Mariota didn't look away from him because he doesn't have faith in him right now. They need to rebuild something. Jonnu Smith's a better player than he's shown, but the question in Nashville is now not like when is he going to be a guy that is some semblance of Delaney Walker. It's if he's going to be. There's a lot of talk in Nashville about wide receivers after the Nick Williams drop. They're getting much more of a 0 from tight end. They just promoted Anthony Ferkser from their practice squad, a Harvard guy, and maybe he can catch a few balls. Middle of the field, they haven't been able to test. They don't really have a slot guy, a dedicated slot guy, and they don't have a tight end right now that can make a play.
For the defense and Dean Pease and the relationship with Mike Vrabel, and I'll give you a chance to wax about Vrabel if you wish. And Pease was allegedly retired for 5 minutes. Now he's running the defense. Kamalea Correa is there as well, and I know he had some roughhousing last week, but had a couple sacks earlier in the year. Some thoughts about where the defense is and what piece of the Ravens comes with them as Dean Pease continues to take part of his Bill Belichick on the road as well.
Well, I think he's done a nice job. I mean, they've spent a lot of money and resources on corner and safety. 3 good corners, though Malcolm Butler's not been great yet. But Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan, 2 New England guys, Adoree Jackson, a first-round pick with great speed. Kevin Byard, a all-pro safety. That's a good batch there. And the pass rush has been pretty good. Depth was a big issue there after they busted on Kevin Dodd. But you got Derek Morgan, Brian Arakpo. Harold Landry, the second rounder they traded up for, has been burning the edge and making impact plays. Jarrell Casey, a very good inside 3 technique, who's benefiting from those guys kind of keeping the quarterback in the pocket. The issue's been now at inside linebacker, especially last week with Wesley Woodyard out with a shoulder injury. We don't know if he'll be back. And Rashaan Evans, who they traded up for at 22, the Alabama inside linebacker, missed most of camp with a hamstring injury, and he just looked lost in Buffalo, like lost to the degree that I think they need to try hard not to play him very much until he mentally gets it better. So that's a big disappointment that the number 22 pick in the draft is not an impact guy, even if he missed camp. But it seems like it's going to take him some time to catch on. And Titans probably be piecing together what's going on at inside linebacker. Jayon Brown, very good against the pass, and he's been pretty good But if Woodyard's out, that'll be a big deal.
Paul Kuharsky's joining us. He has covered the Nashville sports scene as well as the Titans for a couple of decades. You can find him at Paul Kuharsky NFL out on Twitter, as well as at the Midday 180 when he's not listening to the Springsteen channel. The Trots, you did your thing with the Predators. I had no idea. I had Teresa Walker on earlier this week. She said, Trots is in on Saturday. And I'm like, I didn't look at the Islanders schedule and I haven't looked at the Predators schedule in 5 years since Trots left. What's that thing like down there for him? He's a bit of a legend, especially the way the Predators their legend has grown down there, and they've really become something on a Saturday night in Nashville. Yeah,
he's very highly respected here. This town was happy for him last year, no doubt, and then intrigued with the drama after the Caps season and the move to the Islanders. Laviolette's done well. Obviously, they've gone to a Stanley Cup final. They won the President's Trophy. Yeah, we could call it the Predators Trophy for this year. Last season, they raised a couple banners. Yesterday, they had disappointing playoff ending last year against Winnipeg. Trotz has been back a couple times now,
but not as a Stanley Cup champion, right?
Yeah, he will get a nice round of applause. And not only did he, help build this franchise from the ground up with David Poyle, but and him, an incredible guy in town, who Best Buddies or whatever the charity is, which
it is Best Buddies.
Yes, of my head.
It is.
Yeah, he did great work with them, brought them a lot, raised their profile, and helped them a great deal. It's a great cause, and I don't know who doesn't like Barry Trotz except maybe
Ted Leonsis.
Yeah, and yeah, right. And the people who, fans of the teams that...
It's jaw-dropping, isn't it, for people who know Trotz? I mean, you know Trotz 2 decades, I've known him 3. It's jaw-dropping that you would win the Stanley Cup with him and then say, well, you really we don't need you. You really weren't a big part of that. I mean, it's jaw-dropping to me. It really is. And I can't...
It's a little bit like it's a little bit like Steinbrenner Yankee kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't like Barry Trotz, you probably don't like fried chicken and ice cream, right? Literally, right?
Agreed. Or unicorns or sprinkles or
puppies.
Ice cream. Yeah, puppies.
Hey, man, it's always good to catch up with you. We'll keep it short and sweet, and we'll look forward to seeing you down there in Nashville this weekend and talking some football. Hey, man, it's my 50th birthday. At least they made the game time later in the day to give me more Nashville time. And we're headed down to Lynchburg for a little special lemonade tour on Monday. So it's going to be a wild one, and I hope we get a decent football game. Certainly better than what you and I were treated to in Buffalo and Cleveland last weekend, right?
Oh, well, happy birthday. My 50th at the end of January, right before the Super Bowl, and I feel like I'm going to dig a hole and bury myself. You're taking a lot better than I will.
I'm not taking it well. I'm just pretending.
You're not taking it well. You're faking it well.
I'm faking it well. Maybe we'll see you in Nashville. Hey, I'm in Nashville this weekend. What's not, I mean, if you're going to cry in your beer, fine. If you're going to drink your beer, fine. And at least the music will be decent, right? Or you can find
I'll be in
music.
Atlanta for mine. That's not as good a road trip.
Well, I'll celebrate with you. I'll be in Atlanta for yours as well. So I'm sure we'll be down there Radio Row. How about that?
Take care, man.
Be good. Paul Kuharsky, NFL. There's a way to find him out on Twitter as well as at the Midday 180 in Nashville. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.